This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world. Cool. Do you want to kick off your general feelings for the week?
Sure. Yeah, I have lots of energy going into this week and through the week. It's been filled with sales proposals and working with potential customers that are highly engaged. So I tend to have a lot of energy doing that. So I'm wound up.
Good.
Yeah. Yourself?
Oh man, it's been a weird week.
Okay.
So I came out of December super optimistic. I mean, we had just like a killer month in December. And then I looked at all the stuff that we had to get done with the size of our team, and that's kind of been a historical ping ponging back and forth, between doing a ton in sales one month and then doing a ton of execution next month, and then sales drops, and then we focus on sales and whack-a-mole.
The entrepreneur roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's really what you're talking about.
Yep.
Have you tried just flattening it out? Like, I know we've talked about this in the past, where like, just because you sold it this month doesn't mean you have to sell it next month. Is there a way that you can spread that? Or I don't know, just otherwise.
I'm starting to really own that. I think I'm the problem of
all right.
In that I'll jump in and I'll solve sales issues and I'll get sales up, and then I'll solve execution issues. And I think that it's kind of the, solving other people's problems issue where
you put the monkey on your back.
Which is, so, I've kind of been everywhere: marketing, sales, execution, prototyping. And one of the big things we decided Monday is that we were going to take our senior engineer and kind of put him into the old operations position as kind of a hybrid spot, because me trying to run as, both the kind of visionary and the shop foreman just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday was where stuff got crazy in LA.
Have you, before we go on to what Tuesday is, for the operations side of it, have you ever tried, rather than, I know you tried in the past having like one person as the operations, have you ever tried splitting it up where like, all right, this department that focuses on our automation side, so projects that are greater than say 25,000, stuff like that. And then the stuff that's more productized that people are buying on the website, having team leads associated with that. That's what we do for projects, is we have project leads. Now, we might be structuring that a little bit different based on what the team's been telling me, but that's what we found, rather than having, this the person owns all operations now that Michael's stepping back. It keeps it more of a kind of team culture, would kind of be a question I have for you.
Yeah, I think there's multiple things there. I think we're still, I think I have a history of overcorrecting, right? We hired too many people, and then we kind of, I think, lost too many people. And now we went from too high to too low. That's kind of problem number one. Kind of finding our size for right now is the first challenge there.
Yeah, it's always tough, because one more team member at our size is a 10% swing, which is all the profit.
Yeah,
maybe not all the profit, but 50% of it, which is huge.
So that's a challenge. We've just launched so many SKUs that getting the processes down has been a whole issue. We're still like kind of settling into the second shop, the second bigger space. We're kind of finally at the point where things are calm enough to really nail down SOPs, make things clean, put processes in place, and not have it just be pure chaos we're trying to survive. I think that's its own element. It's not that I just want to throw it all off of me. It's that the reality is, like, I'm, kind of a passionate, all in, I want to, work on this thing. I want to push this initiative or whatever. And I need the other side of that somewhere, even if it's a temporary solution, of just a consistent driving accountability force. Because, I can be that accountability guy, but it's not my sweet spot.
Yeah, that's going to allow you to be stepped back too. It's kind of, you're zoomed out. If you're always so close to the problems, you can't really identify what the real problem is and how you can fix it efficiently. Yeah. So that seems like a strategic move.
So I'm excited about it, but
Yeah, anxious or a little nervous might be your
Hmm.
feeling for the week, is what it sounds like. Other than you said something about Tuesday. Let's hear
Well, I don't
that
know if
too
you
then.
looked at the news at all, but LA is kind of a shit show
Oh, the
right now.
75-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah.
Yeah, so we knew the winds were going to be bad kind of Tuesday night, and they were like howling, and I decided, hey, I have two cars, and one of them I keep at work,
Mhm.
and we have them under like the little tents, with the fabric on top,
Okay.
and I was starting to be concerned. I'm like, those tents are just going to fly away, and so I drive to work, and on the way there I see like I don't know, 10 15 ambulances, police cars, whatever, sirens blaring, the multiple trees, like giant trees that have been there like as long as I can remember, just down blocking the road.
Oh, geez.
There's a stoplight that has like crumpled, like a full traffic sign has just like crumpled to the ground, and it just looks like the apocalypse. And I get to work. The tent that I'm talking about is like the car's underneath it, and the tent's like halfway off the ground, like about to take off into the air.
Oh,
So,
sweet.
luckily it hadn't like hit the car. So I move the car. I call
Oh,
my
I think.
fiance,
Okay.
and I'm like, hey, you need to get here. We need to leave like the expensive cars in the warehouse. Um, and then she comes over. I get the cars in the warehouse through like these huge, ridiculous gusts of wind, and then I spend the next 45 minutes with her trying to get all the fabric off of these things so they don't take off into the air,
Okay.
the tents, and
You could have
then
just cut the cables and just whoof.
and like we're getting blasted in the face with like sand and debris, and then we're getting that like con like concrete drills to like screw these things back into the asphalt so they
Oh,
don't just
wow.
take off. So that was totally exhausting, and then then the fires start. So that's kind of just been like a background stressor of now we have like
Yeah, now you're
15
gonna have,
minutes in any direction is on fire from us.
yeah, now you're gonna have air contamination, and then like 4 days from now, Wisconsin's gonna get your air, and everybody's gonna be freaking out over here.
Yeah. So it's got kind of a COVID eeriness of like the roads are a little emptier. People are wearing masks
Okay.
again. People are acting weird. So that's been its own. But I've been trying to stay positive, realize that hey, at least where I am is probably not going to burn.
Yeah,
And
and
try
it's
to
local to your economy. It's not like COVID where the world came to a screeching halt.
yeah, for sure. So that's just been a background stress.
Yeah, that's something different. I've never really been in something like that where it just stuff blows over to that level. I mean, we've had floods over here, stuff like that, but again, not right next to my place of business or home.
Yeah, and like I saw the aftermath of Lahaina, and but it's like four of them in a in
Oh,
any direction in like a close geographic area, so it's just a little jarring. But
okay.
anyways, we will keep going through the process.
No, you're good. I think touching some of the points about us and what we're seeing locally is interesting too. I mean, seems like we should almost make an operations and you know, touch point on us, something like that, or the local stuff. But yeah,
Hmm.
business operations seems like one that we are missing in our list as I look back
Yeah.
through this. But that could be something. I wish people would start putting comments or questions into us. Hint, hint to people that are listening. All 12 of you probably at this point.
It's more than that. Yeah,
It
I mean,
is?
we probably
Okay.
get 120 people per
Oh,
episode or something.
I was expecting you to say 16.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Next is sales and marketing. Like I kind of already hit this already. It's been a lot of sales proposals, so it's really nice. We've got some engineers on the team that work on those proposals with me. They actually, I shouldn't say with me. They basically do all the work at this point. I do reviews and then work with them on pitching with the customers. But some of them are repeat too, where we've already worked with these customers. So I'm almost not even involved in the sales other than from a review process, just zoomed out, like you said, on the operations to make sure that past experiences and knowledges get applied or learning lessons. We don't make some of the same mistakes that we've made on previous sales of big machines.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was our first marketing meeting with our agency for the year. So really laying out the plan with the next, we do it by quarters. We lay out 3 months with that agency of what we're planning to execute for the next 3 months. Really, it's refining and optimizing all the work we did in 24 to get our conversion rates up, because I still think our conversion rates are low for where they should be on our website. Our traffic's nearly tripled. Our conversion rate has not changed. So,
Well, if it's a percentage basis, that's still a win.
yeah, well, our conversion percentage hasn't gone up. Our number of conversions is still the same, even though our traffic is
Oh, so your conversion rate has been
gone
slashed
down.
in third.
Yeah, it's actually gone down. Yeah, our conversion rate's gone down by 3, and our volume's gone
How
up by 3.
recently has the traffic tripled though? Is this a new?
It's new over the last month and a half here. And then the other thing we're seeing with our conversion rate is we changed. So the previous company that was hosting it, their hosting was faster, and now our website is slower. And I think that that's attributing to the reason our conversion rate's now down, even though our traffic is up.
Yeah.
So we're putting energy towards figuring out why our website.
So like a couple of questions. So like, what are you considering a conversion? Is that someone who signs up for an e-form? Is that someone who gets a quote?
Conversion on the website we classify as a quality lead. So not somebody trying to sell us trucking or marketing services. Somebody that is a manufacturer.
Right, but what I mean is that someone sending you a message? Is that someone sending? Yeah.
That's simply an email through the website, or they filled out a form on the website.
Gotcha.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So like one thing I would definitely say is like you might be boosting traffic, but there's always a question of how good is the traffic. Are the articles targeted at the right people? But hosting speeds, I mean, that's something that we've explored, and I cannot believe the amount, even in an industrial B2B business, that it has an effect.
For sure.
You add an extra second to a page, and you'll lose like another 20% of your traffic.
Yeah, our speed is like way worse than a second. You could load it up right now. It's like really bad over the last couple weeks here. I don't know what's going on, and I'm not overly happy about it. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yep.
You guys are still on WordPress?
We actually used to be on Shopify. We went back to WordPress. Reason being is every agency that was going to manage our website, that's what every quote came back with that we were satisfied with.
Yeah.
So it's just really tough to, like, I liked Shopify. I've built out a handful of websites in Shopify. It's super easy. Finding an agency that wants to build a website for B2B of this magnitude was apparently not possible based on the handful of bids and proposals we sent out.
Yeah. And was the migration a bit of a burden to begin with?
Migration was like super cheap in comparison to the rest of the marketing we did. That was like $5,000.
Yeah.
It was like nothing. But our website was like 5 to 10% of what it is today. So
yeah. Oh, so you get, it's just the host change. That's a problem. So you guys went from
it's just the host change. So we were with the previous marketing agency we were with. They still had our hosting, and then we migrated to the agency we've been working with because they've been so good on a lot of other services.
Do you know who they're using? Are they like, on HostGator? Or?
I think it's GoDaddy is who they were using for their domain management, but I can't remember who they're hosting it. What I think it might be correlated to is they're a UK company, and I'm concerned that they're hosting it in the UK, which means everything's coming across the pond. But I don't know. That could be a weird theory.
There's other little things of like, if you have a dedicated server that's running it versus it being stored on a virtual machine, which means like there's one computer on a rack somewhere that's running 40 websites. Yeah. That can have a drastic effect. And they might do that because it's, maybe a quarter of the cost, and they might still be charging you $150 for, plan XYZ, which is, but they might be taking margin on it when your old company might not have.
Could be. Yeah, we need to dig into it because it's been a revolving thing. When we first migrated, it was this slow. They made a bunch of changes and the speed was fine, and now we've regressed again. So I don't know what causes these regressions is the weird thing to me. Because we didn't.
It sounds like the hosting plan that they're actually paying for to me.
Okay. That could be. I will put a note.
It's one of the things I wish I didn't know because I've spent way too much time doing websites myself over the years, but that's how it sounds.
We'll dig into that. I mean, worst case, we go back to the previous company here. I don't know.
And you mentioned sales and marketing, lots of proposals. Are you? And I think you mentioned your team's doing most of it now. Is that a new development? Because I know you were involved quite a bit.
It's been a slow migration. I haven't done any of the CAD and the proposals in a while. What we've done is we've brought in more team members into proposals rather than having me do it. Complete candidness, I made mistakes, missed things, or
Yeah.
thought that things were going to be a lot easier than they really were. Got into the projects and they weren't as easy, or Matt's optimism really kind of bit him in the ass. So now what we're doing is, depending upon the size of the project, depends upon how many people we bring in on the team, is the way we're going about it. So the couple projects we're working on right now are very similar to other projects we've done, and they're under $500,000. So one other team member is supporting those, helping lay it out. The two of us kind of bounce back and forth, brainstorm, lay those proposals out. We have like that big project that I talked about that's north of $2 million. That one we took 4 people, or 4 of us on site to evaluate. It was me, one of our electrical engineers, one of our software engineers, and one of our mechanical engineers. So all departments kind of had some skin in the game, if you will, and had a voice on the proposal and the evaluation to make sure we were mitigating risk. But to give some context, that resulted in us spending north of 250 engineering hours just on a proposal. Yeah. So it needs to be balanced based on how high is the reward and how much we're going to invest in it too, is kind of the other balancing act that we're figuring out as a company.
Do you ever see yourself going to like a dedicated sales, commission-based sales model, or you always think it'll be kind of this multi-department, proposal process?
That's a really good question. I've thought about going to that style of model or sales model, but I'm very reluctant. I think that our engineering team needs to be involved in what we're chasing. And I think the motivation is properly aligned with the way that we're doing our profit sharing structure. Having our sales team involved, or not our sales team, our engineering team involved on the sales. But I'm not saying no to the idea. The kind of the process we're going to is looking at how do we offload some of the top funnel stuff, so I'm not handling all of that, and then I can be more on the closure side of it, and then further push out the need for that type of sales role.
I think you're right. I think it's too early. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, I'm walking through on my thought process. Sorry if it came off as defensive.
No.
I'm just kind of going the way we're looking at it to see if you had other holes to poke into it.
You mentioned the profit sharing, and that's something we've considered but never done.
Yeah.
Are you open to speaking about that?
Yeah, I'm very open. I actually I can cover that in number 4, company-wide updates and improvements.
Okay. Look at you.
We'll cover it because that was actually one of the topics I wanted to cover there. I'm quite excited about it. So, but for the sales, something that we talked about as well, and we talked about a little bit offline, was really we had the one team member that had to segue, and now that team member's off on the marketing side, I'm looking at bringing in basically office or executive assistant. And for that role, that would handle mainly my inbox and all that top of funnel stuff was my goal. And then handling some of our accounting and project accounting to take that off our team, because now that we have so many projects in parallel, it's turning into lots of engineering time, working with suppliers, holding accountable, making sure they get paid. And if that's removed, I think our friction on the engineering side can be reduced. So having that office or executive assistant, I think, helps with the sales and our project velocity.
Yeah, that's an EA personal assistant has always been kind of a pain point for me.
Yeah, I've had the single virtual one, but that's turned into mainly reconciling books, payroll. Mm-hmm. And I think that role some of her stuff will come in here, but I think a lot of her role will just be kind of scoped down to what she originally started as,
right?
Which I think she's going to prefer, because we've grown a lot, and I think we've outgrown her capacity. And so that'll be nice. And then it's also just going to make it communication-wise being in-house, because I know you've struggled with virtual assistants. And that's my big pain, is it's like, I just want to walk over and talk to somebody. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't know. I get sick of typing into a computer.
It's just too hard with the manufacturing business. And, you really, I think you want someone who can pick up the phone, or, if they really have to, can like physically drive somewhere and do something. Yeah.
No, I get it. I mean, I need screen breaks. I'll go and wander around the shop and just chit chat for a little bit at times, like get a cup of coffee, and it's like I just needed to get away from my screen, and it's just like, you know, if you have somebody in house, that's enough of a break for me.
Yep.
So
Okay. I want to talk about our sales.
yeah, let's go for it.
I mean, for us, we've, I mean, been a good January to the point that I'm still a little nervous. I think we need to onboard somebody, but I've continually had that question of where, you know, is it a new machinist? Is it someone who's, you know, going in to do XYZ? You know, in our kind of weekly L10 meeting where we just talk about all the issues, we decided to move our engineer Anish kind of half into that operations slot just to so he could hold everybody accountable, and I could kind of focus on sales, marketing, big issue. Like, you know, I want to work on stuff that's new and broken.
Yeah. Are you getting any data for that decision? Like from your Gants and the stuff like that you're doing for your forecasting on your resources? Are you getting any like, all right, Anish, our engineer, is always overbooked, or team member XYZ
Yeah.
is always seeing these things? And if we look out 6 months, they're not seeing a break.
I think it's a lot more intuition than data. Like I could look at the spindle utilization time or the machine utilization, and I know I could see that, you know, in these periods where I'll dive deep into something, that the team accountability and our efficiency goes down. You know, I know that that's true.
Okay.
And I think I've kind of seen anyways, Anish just picking up the pieces and directing people. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay, well, let's just put that into a process.
Yeah. Give him the promotion if he's already taking the responsibility. Is
Yeah.
what I just heard.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And also to, you know, kind of formalize it to where it's like not actually my responsibility anymore. The challenge with that is that a lot of his time goes into managing, you know, our last big consistent consulting project, which luckily has been slow this month, but we know is going to, you know, ramp back up in a couple of weeks. And that's where, you know, we're really going to have a hole created in that, you know, it's not physically possible for him to do all of his old responsibilities plus all of the new responsibilities, which is kind of tying back into that, the need for another person.
Have you ever thought of just hiring him a backup person now, like maybe not an assistant, but just a junior? Because he's an engineer, right? From my understanding.
Yeah, and he actually had a junior engineer beneath him at one point, when that consulting project in question was a lot bigger scale, and then that guy who was underneath him moved into you know, doing all of our assembly and processes for the automation business. So, you know, we really probably do need another, you know, somewhere between junior and mid-level engineer, and then how it's structured beyond that is still to be determined.
Okay.
Yeah. And marketing, I've been getting back on top of. I've just posts, and that's a whole other thing of like, you know, okay, well, assuming this works, and I guess the big benefit of doing the change this way, first off, I think, you know, we're not really at the size we need like a formalized COO, and you know, we talked about that challenge of you know, wanting to be there but not being there. Having kind of a half solution, I think, makes a lot of sense right now, especially given that Anish is kind of already de facto doing these things. The question I now have is like, okay, now that I, you know, presumably have some more time to dive into things like marketing or R&D or what have you, is the consistency going to be good enough? Because I think that's really where I always struggle. Like I can deliver an amazing result for a week, for 2 weeks. But when it comes to consistency, that's where I really have to rely on my staff.
Yeah.
Because I get bored.
Yeah. I understand ADD.
And then I could find something else to do really well, but then the first thing falls through. So and that's another kind of challenge of like, okay, well, you know, we kind of know we need one person, but you know, what's going to happen with marketing or what's going to happen with these other things that are still kind of primarily my responsibility.
Do you ever just make like a list of tasks or audit your time?
That's one thing I've needed to do, and I think you pushed me to do that before, just a formalized time audit.
As soon as we're done with this call, start every 15-minute increment, start a spreadsheet, lay it out, you know, what time do you start a task, what time do you finish it, give a brief description, and then once you get done with it, do an audit and look at what can be offloaded onto team members or how that looks or different roles. It's really interesting what you can learn from auditing your time and areas that you find that it's like, oh my gosh, I definitely could use some help here, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I have the challenge of I really want to some degree control the level that I regulate myself. Because in a lot of the times when I just have some crazy stupid idea and just go and build it, that's the thing that might move the company forward. The intro load was one of those crazy stupid ideas that where I just said I'm going to build it. I don't care what it takes. I don't care how much I get in the way. And now it will probably become our a significant portion of our revenue within the next quarter.
Interesting. Okay.
And I
I
don't.
find it interesting how you can launch a product and within 90 days it's becoming a significant portion of your revenue. Because it's not like you're a small company anymore, or running out of a garage where that needle swing is like day by day. Like to do that in a quarter is quite impressive, or interesting as well. I'm going to say impressive and interesting all in one line.
Yeah. And that's kind of the problem is as well. The flip side of it is like something like that'll happen. I'll spend huge amounts of hours kind of single-handedly focused on getting this product that I believe in to work. And sometimes it's a huge, slam dunk. And sometimes I just wasted 3 months, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
R&D, product development. The key is you got to know when to cut your losses.
Yeah. Which is something I've become a lot more disciplined about lately.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Becoming attached to a product that you've been working on is a very real thing.
I've done it enough now though that it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Even our conveyor loading system, like we are just seeing so much more sales interest in the intro load, where we've made the decision like, okay, conceivably we're probably going to bump the price up 50-60% because we just see it as a lower volume, more niche item.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't move a certain threshold of those in the next year, we'll probably just discontinue it.
Okay.
Obviously we'll still support it and everything like that, but we have to push where things are working.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. It's tough to make those decisions, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you get used to it. I mean, even the little thing I was working on, like for 2 weeks ago, the little RotoClear window, where I said, everyone wants a little RotoClear anti-coolant window. If it were $750, if it just stuck, and I think all those things are true, but at the same time, we just have other priorities, and that's like becoming a, maybe 2 quarters from now project,
Yeah.
and maybe a thing that we just never return to. And it was a cool thing I spent a couple days on.
Yeah, that might be one of those where if we want to do a collaboration project, since we both have had a
Yeah.
similar thing, that might be one where you could get me back in front of a CAD PC on the weekends if you wanted to. I'm not going to lie. That would be a fun one where I could get some joy out of industrial design again and have fun working with you. It'd be an interesting doing a collaboration product. I don't know. I'm pitching this on the air. I don't know if you're hating that idea or not, but
I'm not, no.
we shall see. I doubt it,
Yep.
but we shall see. You're always the one doing more R&D than we are, so I'm intrigued to hear.
Well, we have some frustrations with our internal auto door.
Okay.
The Intraload has been the first product that we've really said, hey, we want to launch it as fast as possible. We know the interest is really good. We know it works really well. And that led to us partnering with Orange Vice, with Pearson, with Fifth Axis. And the last one we needed was the auto door, and we partnered with Acon. And we were pretty transparent. Hey, like the reason we're going with you is because you say you can deliver this in 2 to 3 weeks. We did the apps engineer call. We did all the things. We got them a PO within 2 days. And of course, we were supposed to receive the thing by the 7th to the 9th. Hear absolutely nothing. So we start following up as soon as we're back in the office. And now, of course, it's the 9th, and we don't even have an estimated shipment date. So now we're re-engineering the auto door, just hopefully eliminate the need for that collaboration entirely, which is frustrating. But I guess the positive news that's coming out of it is the internal auto doors going to have gone from something that was, we were actually losing money on in the line items to something that actually has kind of a normal, respectable margin, assuming that our new design works.
Okay.
So
that seems like a positive spin to something being late.
it's a positive spin but also, it's a lot of NREs of, we already had, 2 engineers on this for a week, and now we're going back to the drawing board to make it all in-house.
Yeah. That's a challenge how
Yeah.
those little things stack up. It's,
Hmm.
everybody's always like, oh, what's the big thing that swings the business? It's like, it's all the little things.
Hmm.
And that's
And
just one of
sometimes
those.
one big thing.
Yeah, but even then it's a bunch of little decisions after that big thing that correct or don't correct. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. We could go down a whole rabbit hole there.
Hmm.
Um, anything else about engineering and R&D?
I guess the PLC,
Okay.
that's kind of been a pain point. I think I personally worked a ton on the PLC for this like cleaning system before we went on like a week and a half break. And we started to scope it out and we flowed the idea of you guys working on it and then I was like, you know what, I should actually see how far I got. Like maybe I don't remember this. And then I powered the thing up and I'm like, you know, it's pretty much working the way it's supposed to. um, so I think I may have just been a little too hard on the product and the engineering and some of the work I had done.
Okay.
And but there's definitely still a lot for us to learn in terms of ladder logic, PLC, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was very open to helping you, just not in January. That
Oh,
was that
that's
was
fair.
like,
And
you're like, I need help now, and I was like, I wish I could help you right now,
Mhm,
but we've got a couple deadlines coming in here quickly, so I don't think the
mhm.
team would have been thrilled if I was like, hey, I've got a
Oh, I
2-day
know. Yeah.
project that's got to go through here.
Yeah, and I mean to be fair, that's the only like we're in the same boat. That's the reason we wanted to outsource it. Is
Yeah.
like we're looking at our January into February schedule and saying, oh my God, like we need to potentially get another person, train them, do all these things at once, and then we have this like PLC implementation issue, which I think I kind of overblew a little bit in my head, but
Hmm. It
there's
happens.
still a little bit of cleanup that needs to be done with the same PLC in our newest RAV of the conveyor system. What about you guys?
Nothing too crazy. We're buttoning up some things on our modular robot system. So we're working on the case erector right now, which is going on to a larger industrial integration. So most of our product development is driven by either one thing, internal need, that we need this thing to increase our velocity for our other services, or two, we're building a machine and there's an opportunity to productize something in that machine. We've shifted to the one that's going in that machine is considered our prototype. We're not going to try and make it look pretty. We're
Hmm.
going to keep it kind of MVP, if you will, because the end customer that we're typically shipping that one to doesn't care. They want something that functions. That's the most critical aspect. For the MRS, what we've got coming is a case erector for cobots. So you can actually pick up a case on a magazine, feed that through a case erector, send that upstream for case packing with humans or other robots. And then we also have the part placer software working in tandem with that now. So you can place a pallet on the other side of the case erector, which is pretty cool.
Is that your software or is that like
That's
something
ours. So
Yeah.
that's what our software team's been building. We're laying out the entire UI UX on the HMI that you saw, that sexy looking billet aluminum
Hmm.
HMI that we have. And then we've got all the kind of graphics and the actual software that's unique to us. We're not buying something from somebody else. We're calling it part placer
Yeah.
is what it is.
I gotta say something on the HMI.
Yeah.
It is beautiful, but I think you should anodize it.
That is
And,
one of the number one topics here. So you're seeing like the initial revs.
mhm.
So we've only made one of the small version to date and one of the large versions to date. And they were both needed, like the one was going to that trade show and it got done, bolted on and rolled into the trailer for
Yeah.
the show. And then the other one is just like it got bolted together and it's needed for factory acceptance on that machine.
Mhm.
But yes, that has been the conversation. And then we're trying to figure out, like, do we post machine? Do we laser engrave, post our logo, stuff like that? Once
Yeah.
it's anodized is kind of the other topic. So we
Yeah, that's we have made that mistake many times long ago of like just saying, oh man, it's so beautiful, like still the tooling marks on there. It just never stays that way.
Oh no, it definitely doesn't. I mean, that's when I worked at Rings, we'd sell natural is what it would be called, billet aluminum, or anodized. And the amount of natural or just raw aluminum that they sold was rather impressive. But then after going back, like, or looking at them in the future and other or not trade shows, at like car shows, everybody would have ended up polishing them by that
Mhm.
point because they had scratched them so many times. Then they had just like chrome polished. They're just like ridiculous. So,
Yeah. It just never holds up well, and it looks so good for like a month or a week, but
yeah. Yep. So we definitely hear that loud and clear. I'm quite confident the team's gonna be doing that on some of them to come. So we'll send you some pictures or put them on social as soon as they're done.
Yeah, that's one thing we're moving to as well. Is we used almost exclusively anodize. Then we pulled it all back in-house to do powder coat. We developed a whole process to do matte black powder coat, and now we're pushing it back out to anodize. And it really, I think it's just become a volume issue of, we just have, one guy who's just spending too much of a percentage of his time powder coating things now.
Well, if you're making that shift, that might be the person you need. Like sometimes you can, well, you're saying that you might be short on staff. If you're pushing everything to anodize and that person's no longer powder coating, you can sometimes add team members to the team without hiring.
And that's the, God, I have such a mixed reaction with contractors and OSPs because they're so difficult to manage, but at the same time, they're just like this inherent easy flexibility of their, if your volumes go down, well, guess what? You're not anodizing the same quantity of stuff. You're not sending the same amount of stuff out for custom programming or what have you. And it is a nice bit of padding that, you're losing 20 to 30% on for the ability to have it.
But those are direct pass-through costs. Payroll is a recurring expense that always is there. So it's a very real need for work.
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to make that shift. I think anodize is just generally higher quality as well. But especially if you guys start anodizing consistently, smaller batch sizes, keeping really consistently high quality is such a nightmare with anodize. And
suppliers are very critical. There's a couple over here that are really good because of the volume of anodization that's needed of a couple bigger companies. And if you stick with them, the consistency is incredible. If you go to like some of the smaller anodizers, it's amazing. Like the drop off, it is exponential.
Yeah. So that's the challenge. But we are swapping anodizers, and our fingers are crossed.
Cool. Best of luck. Your consistency on thickness or growth of parts will also be much better.
Yeah, and we've only put powder coat on non-critical features, or we'll take it off or whatever. But yeah, moving from a 1/4 coating to a 5/10 coating is a huge deal. No more chasing threads.
That'll be much better. There's some more labor savings right there for you. See, now you're probably up to like 30% of that person that you thought you needed to hire.
Yeah, I mean, I think even with all the efficiency, we still need that additional person, especially once this consulting project ramps up again.
Understood. Okay.
What's our next topic?
Company-wide updates and improvements. That's where I said I would talk about the profit sharing. So what we're doing that's new this year that Develop's never done is we're doing a company kickoff meeting. So we do project kickoffs for our customers. So basically where we'll go through what the entire project is, what the expectations are at the end of it from the customer perspective. We're kind of trying to do the same thing for Develop, treating ourselves as a customer, if you will. What are the goals for the year? What are we expecting to see? How are we going to achieve those? Along with like realignment on what our company statement is, mission, vision kind of stuff. I don't know if that's something that Gimbal gets into, but that's part of EOS or small business flight plan is, re-clarifying what your mission and vision are, along with giving everybody budgets for departments in this meeting. And then lastly is revisiting the profit sharing. So the profit sharing model is pretty straightforward. It's 10% of profit goes into a pool paid out based on what your salary was divided by the 52 weeks. So, or your percentage. So sorry, a little bit different than if we do a Christmas bonus. Yeah, depending upon what that is, you get split based on the percentage you invested out of the payroll, if you will.
Yep.
So that's the way that's going to split. Pretty simple. It's based on a couple other people that I've talked to that works. The other promise I'm making to the team, something that I've always done at Develop, and I want it to kind of hold true like we've talked about in previous podcasts. The other 90%, I promise to not take any of that out. I want to double down on growth. So that other 90% will be staying in the business for the foreseeable future so we continue to grow that profit sharing pool for the company.
Yeah.
So that's
That's always been the kind of hard thing about profit sharing is like, well, how are we classifying a reinvestment and the getting enough transparency and making sure everybody's on the same page. And of course, you have the tax incentive to not profit at all, which
Yeah, we both understand those aspects of it. Develops kind of reach the point where, all right, let's start showing some profit. You can always change from an LLC too. You can go to a corp, you can leave those in, you get different tax bases on that then too. So it turns into a structure. Develops reach the point where we need to probably switch to a corp in the coming years here.
Are you guys an LLC?
We're still an LLC.
Yeah, I mean, we're a LLCS corp.
Yeah, okay.
Which has its own. It's like more beneficial for the owner, but it really limits what kind of strange things like profit sharing or selling different classes of shares you're able to do.
Yeah. So that's really where we're at. So then ideally we can leave more liquidity in the business to maintain kind of those ups and downs, if you will. Where traditionally it's been, all right, let's make it so we optimize our depreciation schedule, our R&D credits. It's like this weird equation in the last quarter of the year. And it's like, rather than just spending money in potentially not always the best ways, let's get really strategic about this business and give the team the transparency so there's extreme buy-in across the board.
I kind of speaking to that, like at the very end of last year, we had a great December, and I kind of thought, like let's try to get, just dial the profits down to zero, screw it, and of course the things had been so hectic, and finally I would say kind of mid-December they started to feel like calming down, and I'm trying to figure out where are we going to spend this extra like 40 grand, and I just said screw this, like we should like take the 10, 20, 30% cut, whatever it is.
Just pay the taxes.
Just pay the taxes, roll it over, and just be strategic. I decided not to play that game for once.
Yeah, I think that's a solid move. We're starting to look at it as a longer term game where it's pivoting from a hobby, if you will. I mean, it's a big hobby at this point, if you want to look at it, or a lifestyle business, but it's also looking out for your team. If we continue to leave that in there, that creates cushions when you have down rounds, stuff like that. They're bigger cushions because you have, rather than looking at the depreciation schedule, you can still keep cash in a business, but it's just not the magnitude that you'd like. So,
yeah, I mean, I have put us in tight spots before by spending down to zero or near zero profit. And then something happens with customer XYZ that, especially if you're consulting or a job shop or whatever, if they're a significant portion of your revenue, that kind of 1-2 punch can almost kill a small business.
Yeah, that's some serious risk.
Yeah. Other general shop improvements?
That's the big one. That's been a lot of my time over the last couple weeks here is structuring how much transparency. I mean, it turned into a 20-page slide deck. I had to reconcile or finish reconciling all of 24 to create budgets for 25. So that was a large portion, looking at what's the right strategic move of those budgets too, because when you're going through a P&L, you've got, the actual realized cost, then you have the stuff that went to assets that you're depreciating. So then you got to break down that a little bit. So it's kind of like a small MBA class, if you will, or a small business class to give the team that understanding. So really focused in on what portions of that P&L I'm going to have the team own. And I mean, I could break that down here for you pretty quickly. It was continuous improvements in R&D. So giving a budget through there. And we're not just talking about dollars, we're talking about time. So how much time does the team get to apply to R&D and CIs next year? And then we have a list. The team over the last year has been creating a SharePoint of continuous improvements they want to do or products that we want to create. So now we kind of just get to vote, if you will, or things that we think are going to have the greatest improvement for the company. And then we focus on those, leave X% of the budget for unforeseen or things that pop up that we really want to do, is kind of the way we're looking at that. Sales and marketing is the other one. So looking at, what do we spend with agencies? What do we spend internally? How many engineering hours do we need from the engineering department to support the sales side of the business? Because that's robbing from revenue, if you will, if you want to kind of look at it that way, or you're budgeting from that engineering revenue creation so you can get the sales so everybody stays busy in the future.
Yeah.
Office, so your standard, what are we purchasing for the office to be functional, but making sure we're being strategic about it, or just kind of trying to give more aspects of the P&L. And that seemed like another one that the team could easily get some visibility on. Software, it is amazing. I don't know how much did you spend on software and subscriptions last year? Because if you don't know that, we need to talk about that in the next podcast. I know we talked about those stupid lines. That was one. The more I dug into it, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, and our P&L is pretty granular in terms of like there's always a question of like, okay, where are you putting SEMrush? Are you putting it in with the advertising budget, or are you putting it in software and subscriptions?
Yeah, I'm starting to move most of that stuff into software and subs, and then you can bucket within there depending upon how granular you want to get into your P&L line. So then I break down stuff in there at this point.
Yeah, but our generally speaking, our P&L is, I don't know, we got 100 different line items at least.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, and all of it's about $30,000 for like our subscriptions.
Okay. Yeah, that seems pretty lean.
Yeah, that's the lean number.
That's the lean number. Okay. Yeah, we came in at it was just shy of $64,000 we spent on software and subscriptions last year.
Yeah, well, I think your top line was higher. Are you willing to share what your top line revenue was?
If top line revenue, no, I'm not gonna share that at this time. Last year was a really tough year, and it would really throw the numbers out. The team here knows those numbers at this point, but we went through a growth pains last year that I've kind of shared offline, and I'll be sharing some more of that in future podcasts. Hopefully,
you can just say no. You don't have to explain yourself.
No, I definitely like giving reasons. I don't like just giving flat no's. I like to say why not now is really my answer. I'm willing to talk about that in the future. I just have to give some more transparency to the team before I talk about it on the podcast.
Cool. Yes, makes sense.
So yeah, software 64, we're showing a budget of, I think it was like 48 or something for next year is what we're budgeting. The reason being is some of that was, we bought new SolidWorks electrical. We bought other SolidWorks seats. So you got to pay that initial lump sum, and then you have the recurring expense. We also set up the one plan last year with the setup, and then we have after that recurring. So we set up HubSpot. Like there's all these things that we set up, and then now we just have the recurring expenses that we get to realize that automation on.
Yeah. Those the number of seats you own, we still run on an old version that we own, and it's all, I bet it's really tied up in a few. Like, if you have 4 SolidWorks seats with something else on top of it, if it's premium plus electrical, that'll eat up a good portion of that.
Yeah.
Should we? I guess I should go on shop improvements.
Yeah, go for it.
Honestly, I kind of felt, a little bit relieved that we had a plan on, how we were going to manage, just generally manage the Gantt chart. Take a lot of that off my plate. There were a lot of improvements at the end of December I wanted to make, but didn't have time to get to. So I just kind of went out on the shop floor. Now that I was able to relax a little bit, and said, "Oh, we're going to move this around. We're going to move this around." I just started moving things. We bought shelves. Like the shop floor layout looks totally different.
It looks nice. Like it's from previous pictures that I've seen, it looked like a bomb went off in a garage, and now it's like it looks like a business.
Well, yeah, it will still look like that. And the nice thing now is that I have my little area that's like the prototyping area that's isolated, where a bomb can go off from my creative 2 or 3 day thing, and hopefully it's somewhat isolated to where it doesn't just the exception with that is like if it's something going on a machine, often we'll have the chaos surrounding that particular machine, and
I understand. I understand how those things just blow up. Like that's why we do the Friday cleanups. I swear by that, 30 to 45, sometimes an hour long. That's all people do at 3 o'clock on Fridays.
Yeah, and we're hosting an NTMA event too, so it's a real incentive for us to clean everything up.
Oh, that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, we have a bunch of live demos we got to get running. And then little things, it doesn't feel like a little thing, but 0 point fixturing. We went and just flipped over our Kurt Vices and just bored dowel pin holes for them to go onto the saunders plates. Things like that, to where, we can get just a setup defined. We have defined tooling. We're starting to really optimize our production too, which is nice.
That's great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that rolls into, you said you're doing a show. What I've been Googling this week is trade shows for 25, where we want to be exhibiting. And I'm trying to pick where we're going. I'm going to pose this tomorrow in the kickoff as one of the items of what trade shows we want to spend our time and money on. Have you been digging into trade shows, what you want to do? I know you do IMTS, but IMTS isn't this year. So what are you doing in 25?
So definitely West Tech. I think probably the plan is just to do, West Tech and then IMTS. Maybe we do something else this year. I don't know.
How far is West Tech from your facility?
I think 45 minutes. I think it's in.
Okay.
I think it's in Anaheim. I don't know. That reminds me, we need to actually sign up for West Tech before it sells out.
West Tech. It says online. Why do attend? So connecting people, driving business forward. What is this show focused on, though? Is it manufacturing technology?
It's pretty much mini IMTS, right?
It is. Okay.
Yeah. So it's all the machine builders and but it's definitely it's big, but it's a fraction of the size of IMTS.
Okay, so it's more machining focused.
Yeah, generally speaking.
Okay.
More than it's not like Pack Expo or something.
Okay, yeah, and we're looking at the PAX, the Automate, the MDM, or the ATX shows.
Yep. So that's a whole subset of questions that we need to start looking at.
Yeah, because
do you have a number of trade shows that or a philosophy around it? Because that's at business scales are or businesses at our scale, it's a real question. I know some businesses who they have 3 or 4 people and they're going to 30 trade shows a year at our scale, and I know other businesses who are we do 1 or 2 or 0.
Yeah, so we started 3 years ago now. We did Automate. That was really our first real trade show. We've done other local or small shows. This year we did, or 24, we did Automate and Pack were the big ones. And then we did a smaller local show. Really the goal is, how do we do 3, if not 4 large shows next year is the way that we're looking at it. So Automate's on there for sure. The issue is Pack's not in Chicago. It's either Georgia or Vegas. And I'd like to do, there's a show in the Georgia one for Pack, and then there's another one, Matt Tecker, I forget exactly what it was called, that's in Ohio, but they're both the same week that my baby's supposed to be born. So I'm not going to be attending those, to say the least. So I got to see if the team would be willing to do those shows without me, or what the best plan of attack is.
I think that's probably the answer, but it's hard to let go, right?
Yeah, we've done shows in the past without Matt, so I know it can be done. We have way better SOPs than we did at that time. So it's more or less who's willing to go to Georgia or Ohio for that week, and who are the right people to have there.
Yeah.
So, cool. I will not be there. I jokingly floated it by Amanda because it's like, well, the baby's supposed to be born, this week.
If she just comes with you,
it's 3 days after. You're gonna.
You can have a trade
early.
show baby.
That wasn't a good question to ask.
Hopefully she doesn't listen to this.
Oh, she's been giving me shit about it, because that's totally. She's like, I should have known you would come up with a question like that to ask. Oh, I guess that even kind of hits the something personal for me. So what have you been Googling, and what's something personal for you?
What have I been Googling? Well, honestly, mostly the fires. I've been trying to Google enough to stay informed, but not so much as to stress myself out. Right.
Okay.
And I'm definitely I have the background stress there.
What stresses you out about it?
I think there's just kind of an eeriness in LA right now of it's still LA, so people can be aggressive, but for the most part, it's I do feel like people are kind of banding together in a way that is abnormal. You still, LA can attract some
Yeah, they band
not
together
fun
and then your
people.
wallet's missing.
I think it's just kind of a collective discomfort with like what's happening. And there's that thing that goes through your head of like, oh, there's a 0.02% chance that somehow this travels all the way down here and hits me, or that another a 27th fire comes up closer to us. So like little stuff like that is just kind of a background stress.
So is like the city actually burning, or is it like the forest north of you?
Well, so like what's happening is that there have been crazy winds. It's pretty dry, and for the most part, there's fires are starting kind of like in the forest, but it's LA, so like the a lot of the like super wealthy homes are like nestled in the forest or in the hills, and basically the multiple forests are burning, like 4, and there's homes both in the forest and then directly next to it, and the ones that are directly next to it are getting burnt up as well.
Okay.
Now I live, 15 miles of actual kind of suburbia in between there, so it's highly unlikely anything would actually
It
get
takes
to
a
us.
lot to burn concrete.
But at the same time, when we were out there like with the tents, we watched a transformer explode.
Okay.
So there's kind of that just like background stress of like
What could?
yeah, well, especially when it's like every day you hear about a new fire. So that's just kind of my candid discomfort. I know it's probably a little bit irrational, but
No,
it is what it is.
I get it. It's close to you, so that's it hits.
Close to home. Yeah.
Understood. Well,
Cool.
We both hit what we Googled and something personal all in one swoop.
All in one go. Yeah.
And I know you have somebody waiting for you, so I'm assuming you want to get to that meeting.
I'm going to meet with Dave Precise on Instagram. He's got 22,000 followers or something. He just posted on Instagram. Anyone going to SoCal?
Okay.
And he did not choose the right time to come to Los Angeles, but we're happy to have him.
Yeah. Hopefully you can show them the best part still.
Thank you so much for listening to Matt and I's conversation this week on the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend or give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week to continue sharing our respective journeys in life, business, and industrial automation. Thanks so much.